The gunmetal skies of Virex, 9 churned with thunderclouds and dust, casting shadows over the thick jungle canopy that blanketed the valley below. Dropships roared past, cutting trails through the gloom, their engines howling as they descended into the war-torn planet. Within one of the final crafts still hovering in orbit, Sergeant Elena Voss sat in silence, checking her gear for the 4th time. Her rifle lay disassembled across her lap, each piece cleaned, calibrated, and aligned with precision born from obsession. No tremor touched her fingers. Her breathing was calm, measured. She did not speak. Across from her, a cluster of Earth defense infantrymen laughed too loudly, their voices bouncing inside the steel hull. They weren't laughing with her, they never did. "Careful with that toy, Voss," one of them snorted, nudging his buddy with an elbow. "Wouldn't want to chip a nail." The others chuckled, some half-heartedly, some with open disdain. Elena didn't look up. Her hands moved with mechanical grace, sliding the scope into place with a quiet click. She'd heard every variation of that joke in every language known to the unified colonies. They never tired of reminding her she was the wrong kind of soldier. Too quiet, too slight, and most unforgivable of all, a woman with a sniper's rank. She locked the final part into place and lifted the rifle with reverence. The matte black barrel gleamed under the flickering lights of the drop bay. One of the men leaned forward, sneering. "Hey, sweetheart, why don't you leave the long shots to real marksmen? We'll let you know if we need help with the coffee." Elena looked at him then, just once, and in that one glance, something cold settled into the soldier's stomach. Not anger, not fear, just silence that said more than words ever could. She turned back to her rifle, engaged the safety, and waited for the landing ramp to open. The squad leader, Captain Dallin, barely acknowledged her as he gave the drop orders. His tone was clipped, efficient, but held the usual trace of dismissiveness when he reached her name. "Voss, take high ground, northeast quadrant. Set up overwatch, but no heroics. Just call the shots if you see movement. This isn't a sniper's war." She nodded once. No salute, no words. They didn't want her voice in their comms anyway. When the ramp dropped, a wall of humid air slammed into the team. Mud sucked at boots, and vines snaked across broken pathways. The jungle of Virex, 9 was a living thing, pulsing with hostile energy. The Empire had made it their breeding ground for expansion, an ideal staging world for pushing deeper into Earth territory. But what made it perfect for them also made it perfect for her. Elena disappeared into the trees like a shadow into dusk. She climbed for hours, her steps soundless on the moss-laced rock and root. Birds scattered before her but made no alarm. The wind was her ally. The leaves shielded her presence. Her sniper's perch was a natural outcropping, a crown of stone wrapped in dense foliage with a direct line of sight to the Empire's expected landing zone. She lay prone, blending into the terrain. Her rifle extended before her like a limb, breathing with her, its barrel steady. She marked distances, wind vectors, thermal anomalies. Everything recorded mentally, no AI assistance. She didn't need it. Machines lacked instinct. They didn't know when prey was about to flee. Far below, Captain Dallin's unit moved like noise incarnate, tripping sensors and slicing machetes through the undergrowth. The Empire would hear them coming from orbit. Elena's optics caught the first glint of metal, dropships, hundreds of meters long, descending with surgical grace. Empire insignias flared crimson against hull plating. The ships sank into the jungle floor with mechanical elegance, releasing squads of soldiers clad in silver armor, their helmets like the heads of insects, faceless and deadly. They disembarked laughing, confident, arrogant. She zoomed in. One commander barked orders with theatrical gestures, spinning a ceremonial blade for show. His voice echoed through open comms, translated into Terran dialects for effect. "Earth sends us children and women now. Their desperation is admirable." More laughter followed. One soldier made a joke in Galactic Common, about Earth snipers menstruating in the trees. Another offered to flush out the skirt with a flamethrower. Their signal wasn't encrypted. They didn't think she was listening. Or maybe they just didn't care. Elena adjusted her breathing, exhaled, and locked onto the commander's chest. She didn't fire. Not yet. Orders were strict: observe, report, await engagement clearance. She watched as they set up temporary structures, parked walkers, and began deploying relay towers. It was the same pattern as on Andar 6 and the failed siege on Zero's Prime. The Empire was predictable. That's why she was here. Her earpiece crackled. Sergeant Voss, status report, came Dallin's voice, curt and condescending. Visual on enemy deployment confirmed, she replied. 4 dropships, multiple squads, forward base construction underway. No aerial scouts detected yet. Copy that. Hold fire. We don't want to spook them. Let command analyze. Her finger hovered near the trigger. The commander below now twirled his blade at a junior soldier, mocking a duel. He struck the younger man across the helmet with it, laughing. There were no consequences in the Empire for cruelty, only failure. And she intended to deliver it. The day dragged. The jungle baked beneath the twin suns. Empire soldiers stripped off helmets and lounged beside their temporary bunkers. One lit a fire to roast local fauna. Another began tagging graffiti on nearby stones, a crude depiction of a woman with a sniper rifle, drawn with exaggerated features and a bullet in her own foot. They laughed. Always laughing. Elena stayed still. As dusk fell, Earth's base relayed her next move: pull back and mark enemy locations. Extraction in 2 days. No engagement yet. She shut off her comms after confirming receipt. By midnight, a storm brewed, violent, electric. Thunder cracked like gunfire, rain slashed through the canopy, but Elena remained in position. The laughter from the enemy base had stopped, replaced by occasional patrol chatter. They still had no idea death had been watching them for hours. Lightning illuminated their arrogance. She saw the commander again, standing alone beneath a tarp, arms raised to the sky in mock worship. Elena, do you read? Dallin's voice buzzed again. We've got a scouting drone in your sector. Thermal feed confirms movement. Be advised. Could be enemy recon. She blinked once, scanning. There was movement, something slithering through the underbrush. But it wasn't human. Just a jungle stalker. Still, she tagged the coordinates and relayed them. The drone passed overhead moments later, and she watched it falter, briefly disrupted by the storm. Its lens swiveled, paused on her position for a breath too long. She didn't move. Back at base, Dallin reviewed the grainy image, enhancing it. The outline was unmistakable. A sniper. Camouflaged. Female. Why the hell is she that close? He muttered. She was told to observe, not play hero. The next day, Command sent a modified assignment. Elena was to stay embedded, watch for patterns, and serve as a static intel node. Unspoken, but clear, she was to stay out of the way, just a sensor with a heartbeat. The disrespect didn't wound her. It never had. She let it pile into something colder, cleaner, like snow packed before a shot. On the 4th day, something changed. The enemy brought out a broadcasting drone. It floated into the air, humming as it transmitted a message across all open Earth channels. To the soldiers of Terra, your women fight for you. Brave, yes. But misguided. Today, we send you a message. The drone displayed the graffiti again, the woman sniper, this time animated. It showed her tripping over her own rifle, falling into a pit, and exploding. Laughter filled the transmission. Then static. Dallin cursed. That's aimed at your girl, he said, not even masking it. But the jungle was already silent again. The laughter below resumed, though quieter now. Less certain. Elena watched, waited, memorized patrol rotations. At dusk, she adjusted her scope to a distant figure, one of the communication officers. She could see the sweat beading under his helmet, the way his eyes darted at every shadow. She placed her finger on the trigger. Then, she didn't fire. She waited. She would not be baited by mockery. Her rifle did not speak in anger. It would speak in silence. And when it did, the jungle would remember. The Empire would learn. And no one would laugh. The broadcasting drone hovered midair like a sinister eye, its signal pulsing across the open frequencies. All Earth personnel received the footage simultaneously. The cartoonish depiction of a female sniper drawn with grotesque exaggeration, the laughter of galactic soldiers behind the image echoing like taunts hurled through the void. For a long moment, silence followed the transmission across Earth's tactical network. Then the Empire's voice returned, clear, smug, and surgical. You have no need for snipers when your women bleed fear. Send your best, and we will make her disappear. It wasn't a challenge. It was dismissal. Inside the dense canopy where Elena Voss lay coiled in patience, the feed played silently across her HUD. She watched it once. Just once. Then deleted the broadcast from her system and began checking wind vectors. Below, the enemy grew bolder. Empire patrols extended deeper into the jungle, growing sloppier with every sweep. They moved in 3s and 4s now, some without full gear, cracking jokes as they walked. The commanders had declared the region pacified. Earth hadn't responded. The sniper hadn't fired. To them, it was over. Arrogance. The oldest flaw of any invader. Elena hadn't moved from her perch. Her rations were down to scraps, her limbs stiff from the stillness, her stomach a quiet void. But her trigger hand remained steady. Her eyes never stopped calculating. Every patrol route. Every change in pattern. Every laugh they made when they thought no one was listening. The enemy's amusement continued even as their signal towers broadcast celebratory noise. She intercepted one feed showing soldiers playing games with stolen gear, Earth-issue helmets kicked like sport balls, sniper visors mocked with neon stickers, a parody training course where one man faked a fall and another mimicked a woman crying for backup. They roared with laughter. In the third quadrant of the forward Empire encampment, a soldier knelt to urinate against a tree. A moment later, his helmet cracked open like an egg. No sound. No warning. Just one clean hole punched through his visor. The man collapsed in a heap, his bladder still emptying into the soil. His partner turned, startled, but found no shooter, no smoke, no origin. He radioed in, stumbling through his report. But the commanders didn't believe him. Jungle creature, most likely, one said. A sniper? Don't flatter them, said another. They didn't even secure the body. Left it overnight. Let the jungle take it. Elena watched from half a mile away, unmoving. The next night, 2 more soldiers vanished. Not shot. Taken. The kind of disappearance that left no scream, no trail. Only weapons dropped in haste, helmets still warm. The Empire tried to rationalize. Maybe they wandered. Maybe locals, if any still existed, got brave. The commanders refused to acknowledge the possibility of an Earth sniper. It didn't fit the narrative they broadcast. But the laughter started to thin. On the 5th day, Captain Dallin and his squad advanced toward the northeast quadrant, oblivious to the shift in terrain. They moved slower now, each step less confident. The trees felt tighter, closer. One soldier swore he saw movement, another heard breathing. Cut the nerves, Dallin barked. Voss hasn't called in a single confirmed target. This sector's cold. A moment later, a low whistle sang through the canopy. It wasn't wind. One of Dallin's men dropped mid-step, kneecap shattered. Another tried to drag him but caught a bullet through his thigh. The squad fired wildly into the foliage, screaming coordinates, demanding air support. No reply came. Their comms were jammed. Dallin scrambled behind a ridge, clutching his rifle with sweat-slick fingers. Voss, do you read? Is that you? Goddammit, do not engage without authorization. But Elena wasn't on their comms. She'd been removed from the squad network hours ago. Paperwork lost, command rerouted. Communication oversight. No one wanted to admit the only effective ghost on the field wasn't part of the plan. And so she hunted without permission. She fired again. This time, a single shot traveled over 1,000 meters, pierced a power relay, and plunged half the Empire camp into darkness. No body fell, but the effect was worse. Panic. Floodlights stuttered. Voices rose. Orders blurred. Targets scrambled. Inside the camp, the Empire commander known as Sarn Vasil stepped into the open, his ceremonial armor gleaming. He activated his comlink, voice booming with theatrical flair. "To the sniper in the trees," he said, eyes scanning the canopy. "We acknowledge your presence. But hiding in darkness is not victory. Show yourself, and we'll honor your death with the respect of a warrior." Elena had already calculated the speech duration. 12 seconds. She waited until second 11. Then fired. His left pauldron exploded off his shoulder. No kill. A warning. The camp erupted. Troops ducked, scattered, some shouting in their native tongues. Vasil hit the ground, stunned more by the precision than the impact. He bled, but lived. That wasn't an accident. That was intention. The sniper was speaking now, in the language of shots. That night, Vasil called a war council. Holograms flickered inside his quarters, surrounding him with blurry projections of fellow officers across the armada. His voice trembled under control. One sniper. Female, presumably. Impossible precision. No thermal signature. No drone confirmation. "She's bleeding us, slowly." Another commander laughed dismissively from the safety of orbit. "You're afraid of a ghost with a rifle?" "No," Vasil hissed. "I'm afraid of her silence." Orders shifted. Patrols tripled. Floodlights doubled. Search drones scrambled day and night. Random shelling pounded the forest in sweeping arcs. They fired into shadows, trees, animals, anything that twitched. And still, the shots came. One by one, they lost soldiers. Not in battles. In minutes. In silence. A throat pierced mid-snore. A man's breath cut short as he sipped water. Another dragged from his latrine, never to be found. The fear grew not in volume, but in quiet. Empire soldiers began sleeping in shifts of 5. Some refused to patrol. Jokes died. Laughter vanished. Inside the jungle, Elena marked her kills with symbols carved into a bark near her perch. Small. Private. The Empire wouldn't find them. One night, a young Earth scout from another squad stumbled into her sector. He'd been separated from his team during a skirmish. Bloodied, limping, barely coherent. When he saw her silhouette against the trees, he froze. "You're real," he breathed. "They said you were." She raised a finger to her lips. No sound. Then pointed north, guiding him silently through a safer path. No words exchanged. But the boy reached base and told everyone the story. "She doesn't speak. Just points and disappears. But she's there. Watching." Rumors bloomed among Earth ranks like blossoms in the dark. The sniper wasn't dead weight. She was a ghost. A reckoning. And the Empire couldn't stop her. By the 7th day, Vasil issued new orders. Sniper sweeps every 3 hours. Thermal detonators dropped on every ridge. The sky glowed with fire. Yet none of it reached her. Elena had moved higher. Into the cliffs, where the fog rolled in and even satellites struggled to map terrain. She waited. Watched. And chose her next shot. At dawn, 2 Empire engineers worked beneath a signal tower. One cursed the heat, the other removed his helmet to wipe his brow. She exhaled. Fired. Helmet shattered. The second engineer dove, blood spraying his face. He lived, but only to tell the story. They began calling her the Whisper. Not just a sniper. A force. At the Earth base, Dallin reviewed casualty reports, Empire numbers rising. Earth. No new losses. A miracle. No. A ghost with a rifle and no patience for mockery. Still, command hesitated. They wanted data. Proof. They didn't understand war like she did. Back in the Empire camp, Vasil now wore his helmet even during sleep. His officers did too. There were no more speeches. No broadcasts. The mocking image was scrubbed from all terminals. Their tone had changed. from triumphant to terrified. On the 10th day, a group of Empire elites was dispatched to track her. Special forces. Trained. Unemotional. They never returned. Only their tracking beacon was found, lodged in a tree 900 meters above the jungle floor, still blinking. The Empire stopped sending teams after that. They built higher walls, shorter patrol routes, and started whispering prayers. Atop her perch, Elena stared through the glass of her scope. Her cheek rested against the stalk like it was born there. Her heartbeat synced to the weight of her breath. She didn't feel pride, only clarity. Each shot brought silence. Each silence brought space. And in that space, fear grew. Not just in the Empire, but in every soldier who ever sneered. Every commander who dismissed. Every man who assumed silence meant weakness. The whisper had become a roar. And she wasn't done yet. They named the Operation Glassfang, a poetic title for a brutal task. 100 Empire soldiers, cybernetically enhanced trackers, and 2 elite recon units pulled from orbital stations were dropped into the jungle. Their sole objective: locate, isolate, and neutralize the sniper. No extraction until her position was confirmed with visual and thermal certainty. No excuses for failure. She is not myth, Commander Vasil warned the units. She is method. You will hunt her as you would a virus. Track signs. Study patterns. And when you think you see her, assume you don't. Because she's already looking at you. The soldiers nodded. But even behind their masks, Elena knew many didn't believe. Not truly. Not until their boots touched the wet jungle floor and the fog whispered past them like breath held too long. She heard the dropship engines before they entered her quadrant. Calculated their flight arcs. Tracked heat signatures and pulse displacements in the leaves. The Empire had grown desperate. She could smell it, literally. Their synthetic pheromone masking sprays had a faint chemical trace. The hunt had begun. But Elena didn't run. She changed elevation, rising into the canopy's high crawl, slithering along the ancient branches where wind became a whisper and roots no longer dictated the path. Her body was leaner now, worn but honed. Every move had purpose. She ate moss and rainwater, slept in 20-minute cycles, dreamed of nothing. The first squad moved in pairs, using triangulated scanners and AI drones shaped like insects. She watched one drone land inches from her position. It buzzed once, scanned, found nothing, moved on. Her breath didn't shift the leaves. Her skin temperature matched the bark. Even her heartbeat was lower than average now, trained to remain calm during close passes. They wouldn't find her because she didn't exist in the ways they searched. Instead, she studied them. The second squad set infrared mines along a presumed sniper route. Elena watched their placement, noted the gaps. A third squad left audio sensors disguised as roots. She looped around, gathered one, and fed it into a squirrel's den. The resulting data would be chaos. Empire soldiers began reporting phantom blips and movement loops. The jungle played tricks, they claimed. But they didn't understand. The jungle listened to her now. She wasn't hiding in it. She was it. Then came the real threat. Unit 9. 4 soldiers. Silent. Clad in light-absorbing armor laced with reactive fibers. No name tags. No chatter. They didn't walk like soldiers. They moved like predators. One of them held a rifle not yet seen on Earth battlefields, a phased pulse variant with adaptive sighting. Another carried a drone on his shoulder that blinked without rhythm. These weren't hunters. These were assassins. Elena watched them for 3 hours before making her first move. Not a shot. Just a signal bounce, a subtle redirection of their tracking field through a mirrored rock face. It fed them a false thermal spike. They didn't hesitate. Followed it into a culvert. She rigged the entry point with crushed shell casings and her own scent, long dried. Then slipped into the canopy to watch. One of the assassins paused at the entrance, hand on his blade. He felt something. But the others went in. The terrain swallowed them. Mist coiled. Minutes passed. Then a single, sharp flash. One of them detonated their backup charge. She counted 3 exits. Waited at none. Instead, she left a message. On a flat stone where they emerged, she had etched a symbol, a curved line through a circle, her mark. Below it, 3 notches. One for each she spared. The message was clear. I could have ended you. I chose not to. The assassin who had hesitated looked up at the trees, silent, then smashed the stone beneath his boot. But now they knew she watched. They started laying counter-traps, decoys, phantom bodies with heat cores, drones that mimicked respiration patterns. Elena recognized the deception. She didn't take the bait. Instead, she took one of their drones. Carefully, quietly, she reprogrammed it to replay her location 10 seconds after it pinged. A delay too small to notice, unless you were dying because of it. She released it back into the patrol line. By the 3rd day, one of the elite assassins was missing. No alert. No signal. Just gone. Elena didn't kill him. But she made sure his tracker showed he had been walking in circles for 7 hours before stopping cold. That was all it took. The others grew erratic. They began breaking branches on purpose, leaving signs, daring her to come closer, luring her into confrontations. It wasn't strategy. It was fear. In the central base, Commander Vasil refused to admit the failure outright. He launched a public transmission meant to reach both Earth forces and his own nervous men. The sniper has not won, he said, pacing in full armor. She has only survived. There is a difference. Elena listened from high above, wind curling around her legs. She heard the tremor he tried to hide. That night, she fired once. Not at a person. Not at a weapon. At a flag. The Empire's banner, standing high in their temporary command outpost, fluttered proudly under floodlights. 1 round. Center mass. The pole shattered. The banner fell into the mud. Empire soldiers froze. No shot followed. No movement. Just the message. Their symbols meant nothing here. Vasil ordered double security. He no longer walked between tents without escorts. The elite squad had vanished from broadcasts. Their silence became its own proof. And then something changed. A voice. Soft. Crackling through Elena's private channel. One no one should have known. Her emergency fallback frequency, buried under protocol layers. Sergeant Voss, the voice said. Female. Controlled. This is Lieutenant Mira Tau, your former recon partner. Elena didn't respond. The voice continued. They're coming for the civilians. Not just jungle sweeps. They're prepping scorched earth clearance. We intercepted the order before it reached your quadrant. You have 48 hours. After that, the jungle burns. Elena's heart didn't race, but her eyes narrowed. This changed everything. Tau's voice softened. I know you don't trust anyone anymore. But this isn't a tactic. We still have evac routes. Still have people out there. They'll kill them all if you don't draw the Empire's attention. She didn't need time to decide. Her rifle clicked. Her position shifted. The next day, she fired 8 times. Each shot announced itself with precision. Targets chosen not for tactical importance, but for visibility. One disabled a transport in plain sight. Another shattered the communications tower's highest dish. 3 shattered Empire surveillance orbs while they were recording. By evening, her name resurfaced on every Imperial channel. The Whisper. Earth's executioner. But now, they didn't whisper it. They shouted it in warning. Elena moved faster. Used sound loops to confuse the trackers. Lured them to paths lined with wasp hives. Set minor charges to simulate escape routes. She didn't disappear anymore. She haunted them. Commander Vasil grew erratic. On the 6th day, he marched into the jungle with 24 troops at his back, shouting orders into the trees. Elena Voss. If you hear this, come face me. Be the warrior you pretend to be. She watched him from 100 meters away, perched behind the blackened trunk of a hollowed tree. Her scope tracked his movements, not with the intent to kill, but to remind. She could end him. Any time. Instead, she fired at his feet. The round struck the ground between his boots. Dust leapt. He froze. Then, slowly, she carved her mark into the bark beside her. He looked up. The jungle answered with silence. That night, the Empire camp didn't sleep. Every branch was a trigger. Every whisper a ghost. Their thermal scans pinged false targets. Their AI maps glitched. And still, Elena moved. Now not just a sniper, but a symbol. Because now, she wasn't hunting soldiers. She was hunting time. Evacuation began for the civilian clusters that had remained hidden since the first landings. Earth resistance fighters, old and young, carried crates of supplies through tunnels and streambeds, guided by encoded flashes from unseen hands. Each path opened only after a shot cracked overhead, warning of where not to step, of when to freeze. Elena didn't speak to them, didn't lead them directly, but she covered every step. And above it all, the Empire's fear thickened like smoke. One of the remaining assassins, a woman with crimson insignia, left her team. She entered the jungle alone, helmet off, rifle slung low. "Elena," she said aloud. "I know you hear me. I was at Oria's outpost. I saw what you did there." Silence answered. The woman sighed. "I don't want to kill you. I want to understand you." She sat down, back straight, hands visible. Elena lined up the shot, held her breath, and didn't take it. Instead, she lowered the rifle. Because sometimes, fear wasn't fed by death. It was fed by mercy. And the whisper, Elena Voss, had already become far more than the Empire feared. She was no longer just shadow. She was AIM itself. And she had not yet finished what she came to do. The moment the shot cracked through the dense jungle and struck the helmet clipped to Commander Vasil's side, not his head, not his chest, but that symbol of command, it wasn't silence that followed. It was fear. The entire unit froze. Not because of the impact, but because of what it meant. She'd been watching. Again. Close enough to end him, and once more she hadn't. She didn't need to. She'd made her point. Elena Voss exhaled slowly behind the scope, not because of stress but because the weight of patience had paid off. She moved like a ghost, silently unscrewing her suppressor and sliding back into the trees. The jungle closed behind her like water swallowing a stone. She had 40 hours left before the fire. The Empire's plan was no longer about capture or neutralization. It had become personal, a desire to erase the embarrassment, cleanse the record. The jungle would be set ablaze with incendiary drones from orbit, wiping everything, everyone, including the villagers who hadn't evacuated in time. Elena couldn't stop the storm, but she could shift its target. The idea struck her while passing an abandoned comms relay, a relic from a failed Earth resistance outpost. Vines crawled over its curved antenna. The signal dish had been turned toward the stars, long forgotten. She paused, studied it, and then she smiled. Back at her hideout, less a home and more a hollow dug beneath tree roots, Elena pulled out the salvaged components she'd been carrying for weeks. Earth's old relay codes, power cells, signal splicing gear, encrypted burst beacons. Together, they were almost useless. But with time and focus, they could become something else. A message. She worked in silence, hands steady, stripping wires with her knife, rebuilding a broadcast interface from analog fragments and digital fragments. When the rain came, she didn't stop. When distant engines passed overhead, she didn't flinch. Her fingers bled from splicing. She kept going. She remembered Tao's voice. The warning. And she remembered her father's, before the war, when she was still just Elena, before the name Whisper. "If you ever want to change something big," he said, polishing his old radio unit, "you don't need a gun. Just the right words, sent far enough." By nightfall, the relay sparked. Not much, not loud, but alive. Elena fed it her voice. One recorded message. short, sharp, then routed it through burst echo protocols that would bounce off every Empire satellite, civilian channel, pirate feed, and deep space net still scanning for resistance signals. She didn't want to shout. She wanted to pierce. Her message played exactly once every 7 minutes, randomized frequencies, translated automatically into 7 galactic dialects. Its content was simple, visual, emotional. The footage opened with grainy drone cam from the Empire's own archives, soldiers mocking sniper silhouettes on a board, laughing, then cutting to infrared footage of them dying, disappearing one by one in the jungle, disoriented and afraid. Cut to interviews, captured audio from Empire soldiers screaming into comms about ghosts. Footage of medics dragging out men mumbling about eyes in the trees. A clip from Vasil's broadcast, "She has only survived. There is a difference." Then Elena's voice, calm, clear. "You told the stars that women from Earth couldn't shoot. That fear made us weak. That the jungle would swallow us. A shot fired, sound only. You were right about the jungle. It did swallow us. But we didn't get lost." Cut to footage of the Empire flag falling in the mud. "We became it." The final image was her mark, curved line through a circle, etched in blood on the side of a fallen drone. The message echoed across trade relays, slipped into the data streams of distant colonies, played on prison world loops, even reached the edges of Empire-controlled space. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was undeniable. And it came from someone the Empire said no longer existed. By morning, responses began to pour in, not from Earth, not from command, but from the galaxy itself. Pirate captains laughed as they rebroadcast it. Rebel enclaves cheered. Civilians on occupied worlds painted her symbol on their walls. Even inside the Empire, low-ranking units shared it in secret, whispers traveling faster than fear. Elena listened to none of it. She had work to do. Commander Vasil, however, did hear it. He smashed a holoscreen with his fist, face twisted in a fury laced with disbelief. She's turning us into a joke," he hissed. "This isn't a war. It's a theater. And we're the fools applauding our own humiliation." His aide swallowed hard. "Sir, the upper command has ordered a cease in jungle operations. They want time to assess the, morale implications." Vasil turned. "Cease. They're pulling half the troops. And rerouting the incendiary drones. Apparently, they're reconsidering." He didn't respond for a moment. Then, "Patch me through to orbital command. No encryption. Let her hear me." The signal went live. Across open waves. Elena tuned in. "This is Commander Vasil," he growled. "You've won your little spectacle. Congratulations. But understand this. No matter how many broadcasts you send, no matter how many soldiers you shame, this is not your victory. You're still just one ghost in one jungle. And eventually, even ghosts run out of places to hide." Elena's lips curled. She reached for her mic, clicked it once, and said nothing. That silence, beamed back across the stars, hit harder than any reply. Later that night, an unexpected signal interrupted the relay cycle. Not from the Empire. Not from Tau. It was live. A woman's voice, older, hoarse with exhaustion but sharp with resolve. "This is Captain Andira Sol, Free World Fleet, Orbital Cruiser Rook's Cry." Elena froze. "We received your transmission. Saw the footage. My crew and I fought at the burn of Kerith. Thought no one from Earth was left who could do what we saw you do." Pause. "Static. You gave people something they haven't had in years. Proof. Not propaganda. Not speeches. Real proof that they can be afraid of us again." Elena leaned close to the receiver. "We're inbound. 2 days out. We don't expect a warm welcome. But if you're alive, and you want to make this hurt more than just their pride, we've got a plan." The signal cut. No coordinates. No time. Just the promise of we. Elena didn't smile. Not yet. But she looked toward the stars, and for the first time since the war began, Her eyes didn't scan for threats. They looked for allies. She packed fast. Essentials only. Relay codes. The carved receiver she made as a girl. Then she moved, not deeper into the jungle, but up, to the cliffs, where the jungle thins and the horizon breaks. A perfect place to wait, and to choose. As she climbed, the jungle below buzzed with renewed life. Not just birds and insects, but whispers, humans in hiding, villagers moving again, children peeking out from leaf-covered shelters. She didn't wave, didn't speak, but she saw them, and they saw her. By the time she reached the summit, clouds had parted. Stars flickered like open wounds in the night sky. She knelt, watching for glints of metal among them. Her rifle lay across her lap, not to fire, not tonight, just to remind her who she was. Below, in the Empire's base, Vasil watched the quiet. No more taunts. No more messages. Just stillness. And that terrified him more. She wasn't fighting anymore. She was waiting. When dawn broke, it wasn't fire that came from the sky. It was shadow. A massive ship, angular and battle-worn, breached the clouds in absolute silence. It didn't broadcast warnings. It didn't engage. It just hovered, a specter above the jungle. The rook's cry. Elena stood atop the cliff, facing it, alone. Then, a single light blinked at its underbelly. A signal. 3 dots. 1 dash. 2 dots. She tapped her mic. Responded with a pattern of her own. The ship responded instantly, opening a side hatch mid-air. A tether dropped, and the message was clear. It wasn't over. It was about to begin. And the galaxy, still reeling from the broadcast, leaned closer. To listen. To remember. And to never again underestimate the woman in the shadows.